Did Jeffrey Epstein perform occult rituals? Was his island temple on Little St. James used to make satanic offerings? Why would the world's elite political, business, and scientific minds gather on an island to perform such an act when these very same people tell us to go to church or be smart, listen to science, and be an atheist without the hopes of God? Now, when conspiracy theorists take a look at Epstein's Island's temple, they immediately jump to the conclusion of Satan, fallen angels, Baal, Moloch, Lucifer. These simple associations sound good for rallying against the elite, but fall short in delivering us the facts. The truth is, Epstein was conjuring something far worse than any of names listed. The evidence found on the island suggests an occult operation that the Bible cannot help us uncover. We are going to need forensic occultism to decode Epstein's Island temple. I am Solomon Pakal. I am a historian. I have been a practicing occultist for over 20 years. I had found Jesus and rejected all magic, then came back to magic after realizing that both the church and mystical texts are lying to us. Join me today if you are tired of simple superstitions surrounding this island temple. If you are serious about the mystery surrounding Little St. James, let us begin. If you want to support my work and research, subscribe to my Substack, The Mystery Codex. Now we're going to examine the exterior of the temple in more detail. A lot of people become distracted with the sundial, the temple itself just being there, the color scheme of the temple reflecting certain familiar flags, right? But some fine details often go underserved when it comes to looking at what leads to the temple. These peripheral aspects, especially if we were talking in the context of ritual magic, are very important, and at the very least to be considered. So the first thing is that the temple essentially gets its own quarter of the island. The driveway to it is at the very least a half a mile from any of the nearest structures. So it has its own almost like James Bond villainous long driveway to get to the temple, and it's sitting on a cliff, and so it's really given it's geographically a very exalted position. It's not simply like, let's get out of the cabanas, let's get out of the massage tables, and then just go to the temple. It was almost as if it took a bit of work to simply get there. It's not even close to the sundial. So that kind of almost pilgrimage aspect, or that additional effort and drama of arriving to the temple, should be considered. Once we arrive at the temple, we are here at the edge of a cliff. Now, you're looking at a picture of the temple when the dome was knocked off by Hurricane Irma in 2017. But you can see that it's very close, almost flush to the cliff. On the flip side, there are actually like fire pits, and you can see one over here to the right. And these fire pits, they have benches next to them, and they may have been used for, like, I guess, a recreational thing, perhaps ritualistic thing. But there has to be some kind of reasoning, even if it is architectural, of why the temple is almost flush, and then the platforms that come before the actual temple are situated the way they are. They're asymmetric. Why isn't it a square that surrounds a cube? You know, the cube being the temple. And I have a feeling that this may be on purpose. As you can see here, there's a bunch of weird diagrams from a bird's eye view. And if you're walking on it, you should be able to see them as well. And I have a suspicion that these diagrams serve a purpose to possibly guiding spirits and directing spirits using angles and geometries. Why is this? Is because you see this in a lot of magical traditions. An easy example would be the triangle of manifestation, where you're using it to, sometimes you could say, bind a spirit, but more often than not outside of like coercive practices, outside of Goetia, right? You are looking at just trying to get it to form in our reality. I actually got to see a version of this done when I had the privilege of conducting and witnessing jinn magic by some actual sahirs in Marrakesh, Morocco, where they utilize black sand in a patch of white sand to direct the jinn to the central ritualistic space. And I see that these geometries are repeating and largely on purpose. There's like some differentiation, as we're going to see, but they seem to be very purposeful. Now, I consulted an occultist friend who's very seasoned, and they proposed that there may not be an actual ritualistic use for it, but under the influence of drugs, alcohol, and just hysteria induced by the festivities that were happening there, that these designs may be able to mess with the mind. And these are things that Epstein was interested in as well, like mind science. Could they have been used to make someone more suggestible, get them to open up to things? Possibly. But either way, if I'm looking at this as an occultist, with the amount of money spent too, I don't think any of these things are random, even if they're a bit more intuitive rather than raw systematic. So let's take but I do feel as if there is a purposeful rising of the echelons here with the angles. There's big angles and lines on the first platform, and then as you get closer, they get smaller, but they double in number. And I think that is all on purpose. I think this playing of angles with either spirits or energies is a part of the game here. I think it's a part of a very advanced, well-researched, and experienced group of occultists. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the nature of the temple itself reflects this playing with angles. So, if we examine the temple up close, look carefully, and you will see that these blue and white bricks and all of the architectural features are actually just painted on. And now that the paint is removed, there have been some YouTubers that actually got on the island. It's just like almost like raw cement. It's like very flat. So that door there that looks like a fortress door is actually painted on as well. It's all flat. Here's a picture of the front view that you see, like this three-dimensional divot is actually just painted on. This door is actually just painted on. And obviously we have his initials right here, but do you see how flat it is? The flatness of it, I believe, is specifically for the priority of trying to physically manifest things. Similar to the triangle of manifestation. It is important to remember that every other structure on the island, as in like a housing structure, like a building, right, is absolutely modern. It has modern amenities. It has modern walls, especially that can like withstand hurricanes and stuff. Like they're in the Caribbean. They look like normal buildings in the 21st century, except this one. Why? Why is this one deliberately taking on the appearance of something that, like a building from Minecraft, like a structure from Minecraft? That harsh playing with angles is something that I have experienced in my practice as well. So in my practice, I have come across like what could be called like interdimensional or like even just higher dimensional spirits. But like this is very UPG. This is like the experience of an occultist. There are things that I have come in contact with that have remarked on the playing of angles and things. And from what I've been able to deduce is that they come from a dimension that has a higher or lower number of axes. So we live in a 3-dimensional universe. But if you're talking about something that comes from higher dimensions, it is literally too big to fit within our 3-dimensional universe. So you have to have an interface in order to essentially fit it in or fit a segment of it in. And I think like a good example of this is video games, where our interface is the console, but we can't live in a 2-dimensional world, especially when you think like side scroller. But we can kind of have an interaction with it, albeit temporarily, as long as the console can stay on, right? And I think this is kind of also what you deal with like UFOs and cryptids, is that they're all very fleeting. And I think it comes down to this kind of soft principle of like the angular manifestation. And I think that's what the geometries are for. They seem to be very, very deliberate. And I think that deliberate playing with angles is for the sake of manifesting and prioritizing certain energies or spirits. Otherwise, it's just a really like, especially even if it was simply for all his heinous stuff that he did, he can do that heinous stuff in the living quarters and perhaps even do it better, because there's like sinks, there are showers, there are like, if there's an emergency, hurry up quick, get the fire hydrant, get the paper towels, get, whatever, like cleansing or first aid kind of things. They're easily more situated in something like a kitchen or a bedroom, because inside the temple, it does not lend to definitely having anything on hands that you would need. You can see that's almost, it's not like blatantly ceremonial, as you'll see, but it's easily a tweak away from being ceremonial. And so I digress to this playing with angles. I feel very strongly about this playing with angles based upon my own experience and what I've been able to see and conjure up with the playing of angles. It's actually the same reason why I have this tapestry back here, is not so much that there's sacred energy or sacred imagery. There's some correspondences, yes, but it's mostly so that I can play with my vision and my state of mind when utilizing these LED lights in combination with the geometries of the tapestry, where my altar is, and you're calling the spirits, and there's candle flames, and there's a lot of like this light play that goes on. And the messing with the geometries can help you essentially get in the zone better, or like kind of bridge to the other side and make it easier to communicate. And that's just trying to communicate. I typically don't strive at all for physical manifestations, because it's an arduous task and you don't need it for results. But if they were trying to get a physical manifestation or something of the sort, or even just like heightened, like active ritual, directing energies, I think this is a way to get it done. I'm going to play a video for you that was taken by O'Keefe Media Group and show you just like how flat and how almost uncomfortably two-dimensional this building is. As you can see, it is really odd. It's really odd. Why is it set up? As you can see here, this looks like they're like hold a torch or something. Why specifically have these harsh angles on this building in that spot exactly? The whole name of the game, with especially the exterior, is playing with geometries. That with the oblong architecture to denote dualism or duality, the whole thing becomes a psychoactive sigil. I don't want to say a sigil as in like they had a specific intention simply for the physicality of it. I think it's a conjure machine. I think that's what this thing is. I think the structure is built for that. And as we start looking at the interior, it's like the inner mechanism of the conjure machine. But yes, I do not believe that the angles on the platforms leading up to the temple, and I do not believe the temple's geometry itself is by accident, nor do I think the near mile-long road to get to the temple is an accident. I think it was to be made sacred on purpose. And from that, let us try and decipher what their purpose was. If you want a personalized tour into the powers of Mayan astrology, book your birth chart reading with me today at MayanMysterySchool.com. Over the course of our sessions, we will deep dive into your innate spiritual qualities, subconscious instincts, how to maximize your relationships with others, analyze your darkest shadows, and outline a path towards your greatest good, prosperity, and highest quality of life. Here I package it all up for you in a custom 60-page plus ebook, as if it's a personally channeled grimoire made just for you, complete with illustration, information, instruction, and ritual prompts for the next 5 years, all based upon your Maya telluric astrological timing. This is unlike any other manifestation, magic, esoteric, or occult coaching program or course program out there. The depth, rarity of Mayan ancestral practice expertise, and actionable results makes your Mayan destiny divination a one-of-a-kind experience. Due to the immersion involved, I can only take a few clients on at a time. I look forward to working together.